Boy, you know, sometimes you gotta do maintenance. Today we're gonna be working on the 2019 Kawasaki Vulcan 900 LT Classic. Boy, that's a mouthful. So what we're going to do on this one is, for one, we're draining the oil because we've got about 7,000 miles on this oil and it's time to change it out. We use full synthetic. I'll show you the oil that we're going to put back in here in just a moment. So if you see my little straps here, this is how I set my bike up to drain the oil. I don't have a motorcycle stand. I really haven't ever had the need for one, so I haven't purchased one. So I'm not really worried about it. But what we're also going to do is we're going to replace the front rear brakes. The rear brakes started grinding metal to metal on me. I'll show you that rotor. Maybe I'll put some light on the subject. Oops. All right, here's the front brake caliper. These bolts are 12 millimeters. Show you right there, 12 millimeter. And we're just going to take them off and see if we can slide this caliper off. I already loosened them up, and I thought, you know what? Maybe I need to get the camera out for this so I can go ahead and share this adventure with everybody else. If I need that extra room, I'll slip that out of there and spin it around, but I might be able to get away with not even having to remove that. Let's see. There we go. Yeah, we might not have to remove that. All right, so here are the front brakes. As you could tell, they got some meat left on it, but they're going to be hitting metal to metal real soon as well. So we're going to go ahead and remove these guys. Now, how do we remove them? How do we remove these mofos from here? Well, we got to remove this pin right here on this side. And how we do that is remove that little cotter pin thingy in there. And once we pop that out, then this pin will come out, and then we'll show you the rest. And then we got to compress these caliper pistons. Well, I had a dental pick that I used for these things, but I couldn't find it. So we'll just move on. All right, so I need to get up into there and grab that little pin out. I can't do that while holding the camera, so give me a moment and we'll be right back. All righty, that is the cotter pin. Now, if I'm not full of shit, this pin should come out of here with little effort. Maybe a little more effort than I could give with just one hand. So let me remove that. We'll be right back. Okay, for all of you out there, this pin comes out this way. There's the little hole for the cotter pin. So we'll go ahead and pull this baby out just like that. And as you can see, those brake pads kind of slid down like that. And it's just a matter of pulling them right off of that little knob right there. And these brakes here, they got some meat left on them. I could let them go, but I got brand new ones. So I'm going to go ahead and install them and get these out of here so that these don't start doing what the back ones did. Wait till I show you that. Hopefully my automotive compressor works, and then we'll get those back in there. Not too much, just a little bit, and then, so all right, so the standard automotive compressor, compress those in there just fine. So now all we'll do is we'll reinsert these pads, and let me show you a comparison. There's a brand new pad, and here's the old one. So as you can see, there's definitely some pad loss here. This bike's got 33,000 miles on it, so yeah. Not bad at all. I'm actually quite pleased with how they held up over all this time. See if I could show this to you. This one here goes back on like this. So this is how the pad goes in. It just goes in there like this. This side here will, whoops, maybe I should show it to you. And it'll go in there just like that and sit right like that. And then the pin, of course, will go through there and hold it in place. So now what we got to do is we got to get the outer one on there. Okay, so the outer one, you just slide onto this little shaft right here. Then you just swing it on down to join its rear mate. Okay, so once you got it in there, the pin is back in there. Now you got to find that hole. It's in here somewhere. And put that cotter pin. Oh, it's down here. Find the hole and put the cotter pin back in. And there it is right there. So I got to spin that around so I can put the cotter pin back in. Okay, when you get this pin back in here, just make sure it's fully seated and it's inserted into the hole and not around that shaft. And then we're ready to put it back on. So all we got to do is work it back on. Now, if you had an issue with squeaky brakes, you could grease these up just like you do an automotive pad, but I've never had squeaky brakes on my bike, so I'm not going to really worry about it right now. But if so, I would put some brake quiet where the calipers or the caliper pistons meet the back of that, and then the guide rail here, I would lube it up. Keep it quiet, but for now, I'm not worried about that. So, okay. Next step, get it back on. Alrighty, so if you want to torque these down to spec, I think they're like 18 inch pounds, not foot pounds. But with a lot of stuff, I don't torque down a lot of things that a lot of people say you're supposed to, because when you've been working on cars and things like motorcycles since you were 8 years old, you tend to get a feel for it, and you have a mental torque, and that's what I use. I use mental torque. And you know what? My mental torque wrench even clicks. See? See? It's real faint, but you can hear it. So, all right, this is done. All I'm going to do now is I'm going to compress the brake handle a few times and get the pressure pumped back in there. Now with this, you really shouldn't have to do any bleeding. If you haven't bled your brakes in a while, you might want to, just to get that out of the way. But that's pretty much going to do it. All right, so the front brake is done. I'm going to go do the rear brake, and then we'll get some oil in here. Now, keep in mind, the rear brake is almost identical to the front one. Real soon, we're going to have to replace this this tire again. It's ready. I have one to replace it. I just got to get it replaced. Now, as you can see, I did scrape some metal to metal, which sucks big time. But I'm going to go ahead and get the appropriate Allen screw right there, or Allen socket, so that I could get the rear caliper off, and I can bring it out here and I'll show you when it's out. All right, so most of the time we'll take off the saddlebag, but I don't really feel up to removing the saddlebag. So what we're going to do is we're going to just do our surgery right here. It's going to be a little more difficult back in this hole, but as you can see, it is the very same. It's going to be crazy to get those calipers pushed back in. I don't know how I'm going to do that. I might have to remove the saddlebag and just do it the right way, but we shall see. So let me work at it and we'll be back. All right, here is the pads, and as you can see, there's nothing left. I use these as much as I could possibly use them. And there are some grooves, but I'm not about to spend $300 for a rotor when it's just barely grooved. These new pads are going to wear down to the grooves, and then I'll get another 20,000 miles out of these new pads. No problem at all. Yeah, at the end of this video, I'll try to remember to tell you what I paid for everything. All right, so I'm going to go ahead and get those calipers compressed. If you're doing this, you might want to remove your saddlebag to give you that extra room. I'm just adventurous, and I like to make things difficult for myself. So that's why I got married. All right, easy peasy, guys. Here we go. They're in there. Now it's just a matter of getting them up there. And yes, I took my saddlebag off. I said I wasn't going to do it, but I wanted to get in there. I did. So, all right. Let's get that back on now. All right, the only thing I can say about this is get both of the bolts started before you tighten any of them. That way there you can move it around and get it centered. As you can see, maybe you can. Yeah, right there. My new brake pads are on. all we got to do is go take it for a ride and test it out. But first, we got to do the oil. I'm going to get the saddlebag back on and get all this done and back together. And then we're going to show you what oil we use. Okay, guys, the oil that we use is this stuff right here. This is full synthetic. This is Kawasaki motor oil. KPO HPR 1040. Full synthetic, guys. If I was to put normal oil in, I'd be changing it 3,000 to 4,000 miles. With the full synthetic, you can get about 7,000 miles out of your oil changes, and it's worth the extra money. All right, for the brakes. These are not name brand Kawasaki brakes. These are Caltrix. I buy these parts all the time for my bikes, and I've never been disappointed, okay? So if you're looking for quality aftermarket brakes, definitely this brand is good to go. The front and back brakes was only $15. I know. And this stuff here, the oil and the oil filter, which is a Kawasaki factory oil filter, was $61. Hang on just a second, I'll show you the filter and give you the part number. Okay, the oil filter number is right there, 16097-008. And this is the factory oil filter. We don't put any in it because it goes on like that, so we'll just wet the ring down a little bit, but it does come pretty greased up. But we'll put some oil around the ring and then we'll seal it up nice and tight, and it will not leak. These are good oil filters. So, all right, let me get the oil filter back on, and we'll show you where we put the oil level for first startup. All righty. Let's go ahead and come over here. Okay, guys, we're back on the bike, and let me show you. This is the next day, by the way. Show you where I usually run my oil. I normally like to do it a little bit lower, like right in the middle of those two lines, but my bike is tilted to the left a little bit. So once it's fully straightened up, it'd be pretty much in the middle. But that is well within the safety zone of the bike, so I shouldn't have any problems with it at that level. But I noticed my bike was dripping oil, and some of you with this bike might have had this issue too, but I've had oil dripping down here, and then it splashes back on my exhaust and it burns, and every day I get to work I smell it, and it's horrible. It shouldn't be like that. So I went to pull this cover off. You see something wrong there? And then when I pulled it off, I had all these little chunks fall out at me. Glad I didn't get absorbed into the engine. But anyway, there you go. So all those chunks fell out of where it mounted. Now, how did that happen? It's a very, very good question, how that happened. I really don't know, but right about here, let me see if I can get on camera. You see right there, see those two little dots? That looks like impact. Something struck it right in this corner, and that's probably what caused that to crack. And it must have happened sometime after my oil filter got changed, because when I installed this oil filter, this air filter, when I installed this air filter here, it wasn't like that. So at some point, something hit it. Now, this is going to be an expensive part, but I have to buy it. So I got to rig this up some way in order for me to be able to ride my bike until I get the part in. And what was happening is, since this wasn't tightening up, the oil that came in through the vent tube is supposed to drain back into the engine through this hole down at the bottom. Well, since it was building up here and this wasn't tightening up, it was dripping out right here. So we're going to have to do something. I'll show you my repair in just a moment. But for right now, man, that's devastating. But, all right, here is my repair. I got some very sticky tape right here to cover up the hole, because this is unfiltered air being sucked in. That's why my oil came out looking so horrible this time. So I put a piece of plastic in here in the bolt, and it seems like it tightened down. I wasn't able to wiggle it, so we shall see. By the time I get to work, I should either have a dry cover here, or it's going to be dripping down oil. So we shall see. I'm going to go ahead and leave it all dirty. It's a filthy bike. It's a daily rider. So yeah, so I don't have too much confidence that this tape is going to hold, but I'm pretty sure that the bolt will hold. But that's my repair. So later on the next Kawasaki video, I'll tell you all how much I had to pay to get that piece replaced. I'm going to estimate 50 to 75 bucks for just that cover. Yeah. Alrighty, guys. Well, that's going to really wrap it up for this. It's going to really wrap it up for this episode on the Kawasaki Vulcan 900 LT Classic. By the way, I'm going to ride it to work. Oh, and if you hadn't noticed, my chrome cover for the speedometer, I got to work and I noticed that my bolt was gone, and I just had that recently off. So what we decided is, anytime we're going to remove one of these little screws, we're going to put a dab of Loctite on there, some blue Loctite, in order to get them to stay on there, because with the vibration on the bike, I think that's why that loosened up and fell out. So I'll go ahead and order that as well. I don't want to put just any old bolt. I want a factory bolt. I know. So, alrighty, guys, if you enjoyed this video, go ahead and give it a big thumbs up. Definitely, if you haven't done so already, subscribe, because we're doing all kinds of stuff to this bike. This bike's about 34,000 miles, so it's going to have some things happening. We're going to have to change the rear tire. I was going to do that while I was working on it, but my son's bike started having some problems, which is the one I've been riding. So I had to get this one back up in commission. I can get another 500 miles out of that tire, I'm pretty sure. So, alrighty, guys, take it easy, stay safe, ride free. We're out of here.